Good evening, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So nice to see everybody here this evening and to welcome those of you who are live streaming. We know that you are there and we're just so pleased that you are, so that we recognize that we have a far-flung but intimate community, and you are an important part of it, as is everybody who is here. So we're just very glad to be together. I want to begin or continue with the lighting of the Shabbat candles, and it's my pleasure to welcome forward Joy Anzalone and Amy Arsham.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who held us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen. We continue now in our prayer books on page 6. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Let's continue together. Now we in our turn come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer, turning now to page 26, and I invite you to rise for the Chatzi Kaddish. Amen. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayidechol be'Yisrael Bagala u'v'zman karev
Ve'imeru Amen Yehesh Rabba Mehorach Le'olam ulol me'ol maya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yipar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitale V'yitalal Shemei Kodesh Aprichu Le'ila Min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Ta'amiran v'yalma V'yimeru
Amen.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach
Together, praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praised be Adonai, to whom praise is due now and forever. Continuing on page 30. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the times, and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzavaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Yehuda.
We read together. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. You may be seated, and we continue together now on page 36, chanting the Via Hafta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום
על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך וקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו תותפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך
למען תזכרו
ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם
אשר
הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We read together. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Turning now to page 39, let's read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נטע בקודש. לא תהיו עוז את פלא,
We turn now in our prayer books to page 46, and as you are able, I invite you to rise for the Amida.
למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, נחיה הכל אתה, רב להושיע, מוריך אתה. מחכה לחיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומדומה מלך ממית ומחיה ומצליח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל.
We turn now to page 53, and before we read this passage, I want to make a comment about it. You'll notice that the pronoun in this paragraph is first person plural, we. Most of our prayers are we. There are some exceptions where the first person singular, I, is used. And what does that suggest? We can understand we both, I might say, distributively and collectively. Distributively, we includes each of us one at a time, distributing the idea over each of us as individuals. But also collectively, we are a community. And so if one wants to see this passage as calling us to a certain kind of obligation, then two entities have the obligation. Each of us and all of us together. The individual has an obligation, and the community has its own obligation as well. And the community is the combination of all of us. Let's read this paragraph together. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence like lightning illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated. Continuing now on page 61. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. Let's continue together. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. Before we pause for moments of silence, let me just invite you to turn to page 62. The first English paragraph represents a kind of paradox. The rabbi suggests that it's at this moment when we leave the predictable structure of the service, the keva, what's fixed, and move to kavanah, the intentionality that burns in our own hearts. And so this is a moment for personal, spontaneous prayer. The paradox is that this paragraph offers one that is now fixed. And you can see that this paragraph is not first person plural, but first person singular. This is an opportunity to allow this paragraph to be the catalyst for your private prayer. So you can read it in that spirit, or you can close your eyes literally or figuratively and deliver your own silent prayer as your heart prompts. Moments for silent prayer.
Kol Yisrael
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's wonderful to see you, and it's wonderful to know that we have friends watching us from home and from different parts of the world. A number of people are traveling around this time of year, and it's wonderful to be here to celebrate Shabbat together, both in person and, as Rabbi Klein said, in community wherever people may be. We turn to page 244 for the Torah service. There is none like you among the gods, Adonai, and there are no deeds like yours. You are sovereign over all worlds, and your dominion is in all generations. Adonai reigns, Adonai has reigned. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Adonai will give strength to our people. Adonai will bless our people with peace. As you're able to, please rise.
אין כמוך באלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך,
Adonai Yimloch Leolam Vaed. Adonai Oz Yavoten. Adonai Yevarech et Amo Hashem. Avarach Adim et In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it. Ki mitzion teitzei Torah. Ki mitzion teitzei Torah. Udvar Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael, b'kedushato. You may be seated. If I may, I'd like to speak about where we are in the Torah, in our story, because we're in a particular place that I think is special. And you know what? I think I might say a few more words than I had intended about it this evening, if you don't mind. And whenever you really get tired of me, please let me know. Please, and feel free to, we're among friends and family here, so please feel free to interject. This is an important moment, and I want to point it out, and I think I may do so at some greater length for a moment, because we're towards the middle of the book of Numbers. We are reaching the middle of the book of Numbers, and we are in this book of Numbers, which is the book of rebellion. It's the book of things not going right. It's the book of the journey that goes awry. It's the book of the journey of promise that turns into complexity. And I think it's important for us to take stock, and especially today, of the moment we arrive at in this book, which in a sense is the pinnacle. It is certainly one of a set of pinnacles, if not the pinnacle, of the trouble. We come to this Torah portion of Korach, which is perhaps the paradigmatic rebellion and trouble that arises in the book of Numbers, and a moment that extracts from Moses arguably the single greatest moment in Moses' career since Mount Sinai. In many ways, it extracts from Moses an Abrahamic kind of moment. What do I mean by an Abrahamic kind of moment? Why do I say that? Why is it an Abrahamic kind of moment? The Torah portion of Korach refers back in a particular way to the story of Abraham and Sodom and Gomorrah. Do you remember the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? You remember Abraham goes and Lot is in Sodom. Do you remember that story? And the city of Sodom is filled with criminals, filled with evil people, filled with people who are sinners. And God sees this city of Sodom and decides to destroy it, right? And Abraham stands on top of the mountain overlooking Sodom, right? And Lot has already started to come out. Lot has come out with his family of Sodom. And Abraham argues with God, right? Remember that moment? And Abraham argues with God and says to God, would you not save the city of Sodom for 50 righteous people? And then for 10 righteous. You remember that? Remember that negotiation that takes place between Abraham and God around Sodom? Okay, bear that in mind. Think about this for a moment. The Torah portion, as we're going to see, starts with Korach, the son of Tzohar, the son of Kehat, the son of Levi. In other words, a relative of Moses. Moses is the son of Amram, who is the son of Kehat, who is the son of Levi. The Torah portion of Korach starts out listing the parentage of Korach, to indicate to us that this is a person who is a Levite, this is a person who has privilege, this is a person who has status in the community, who is a relative of Moses, who challenges Moses' leadership. Who not only challenges Moses' leadership, who ends up challenging the entire journey. Who ends up not only challenging the entire journey, but the institutions of Israelite culture. Everything is challenged by Korach, right?
And the challenge is so great that he brings along all of these people, Korach, this charismatic character, who says to Moses, "Who are you to lead us? We were all there at Mount Sinai. We all heard and saw and experienced Mount Sinai. Why are you the person selected to lead us? Who selected you? Who appointed you? Who voted for you? We don't believe your appointment. We don't believe your selection." Who are you? To such a degree that the entire congregation circles around Moses and challenges Moses. Moses and Aaron are found encircled by all of these people who are now no longer willing to accept Moses' authority. And we come to a point in the Torah portion of Korach where God says to Moses and Aaron, "Hibadlu mitoch ha'edah," exit, separate yourselves out from the congregation, separate yourselves out from this community. Vani achale kerega, it says, I, God, will destroy this community. I will annihilate this entire community, this entire nation, everybody here, in one moment. In one moment, I will destroy everybody. Everybody has turned to become such sinners, I will destroy everybody. Remember God wanting to destroy Sodom? Everybody in Sodom, and Abraham arguing, wait a minute, maybe you will save some people in Sodom for the sake of the righteous. Here God wants to destroy everybody. Kol ha'edah, the entire community, everybody. Right? We have a parallel between Sodom and Gomorrah and what happens here with the Israelites. And Moses and Aaron, vayiplu al pneihem, the text says, they fell onto their faces. They fell onto the ground. The text reads, Vayomru el Elohei haruchot, el Elohei kol basar. The God, they say, the God of all the spirits of all flesh. Ha'ish echad yecheta. Is it the case that one person should sin? If one person only sinned, would you hatikzof al kol ha'edah? Would you be angry? Would you allow your anger to pour upon the entire community? Now here is a really interesting moment. In the context of the story of Sodom, the question that Abraham raised was a question of righteousness, of the righteous. Would we not save the entire city for the sake of a number of righteous people? Would a number of righteous people not exonerate, not allow us to give credit to the entire city of Sodom so that the entire city of Sodom would be saved on account of these righteous people, right? Think about this, and think about this in our lives, right? Think about what we're living through right now, right? There is, for example, a war in the Ukraine. We have a tendency, we have this idea of who the aggressor is and who the victim is. Who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. And we know that the bad guys are all bad guys and the good guys are all good guys, right? Yes? So, you know, Russians, oy vey, they're all bad, right? And the Ukrainians, now I am not suggesting that the horrors that are taking place in the Ukraine, the targeting of civilians, the targeting of civilian caravans out of cities, the mass rape that is taking place in Ukraine. I'm not suggesting that there are not horrible, terrible, terrible things that are happening in the Ukraine. But, you know, we have to ask ourselves the question, right? We do want to ask ourselves the question. I'm just offering one example, right? Is there anything out there, will there be anything that we see in the Russians that will redeem this collective, that we think of as an evil collective? Is it really that straightforward? What, are there not innocent people, righteous people? Are there not, even within their armed forces, who knows, are there not people who are worthy of credit, on account of whom we should think differently about the collective? Right? Do you understand what the parallel I'm trying to draw? Is this right? Okay. One parallel, one example, right? Here, there is a different story. Here, it's the opposite picture. And I want to pause on this, and I want us to think about this for a moment. It is said that Korach was so charismatic, with Datan and Aviram arguing against Moses, not only arguing against Moses, not being willing to participate in the institutions of dispute resolution of the Israelites. When Moses invited them, come, let's resolve our dispute. No, we don't believe in your institutions. We don't believe in your courts. We don't believe in your fact-finding. We are not willing to participate in this. We reject everything about your leadership and your institutions. This is how far the rebellion went. Yes? But Moses and Aaron, after everybody is encircling them, turn to God when God says, I'm going to destroy this entire community. Look at them. They're surrounding you. Everybody has turned on you. Separate yourselves from them, and I will destroy everybody in one moment, in a flash. And Moses and Aaron say, what if one person had sinned and the others haven't? In other words, Moses and Aaron say, yes, this is awful. Yes, this rebellion is absolutely awful. But one person is the leader. There is a leader to this rebellion. There is a person who is the core of the narrative. There is a person who is leading this. This is how our commentators read the Torah portion of Korach. There is a leader here, and are we not going to judge the leader differently from the way we judge the followers? Are we not going to think differently in such a way that perhaps we exonerate the followers and others while holding the leader to account? And I want to make a suggestion to you here. And the suggestion is that I find that around these days, and I'm going to speak for myself, I live on this bizarre spectrum of looking at the world around me and knowing that on the one hand, I have a tendency to look at a collective and identify an entire collective as a collective of aggressors as opposed to a collective of victims. I have a tendency, I know that I have to think more clearly about those people who might give credit, who might allow me to think in a more nuanced way about those who do so much harm. In other words, and ask myself the question, are there innocents out there who would give credit to such a degree that we would think differently about this collective of evildoers, on the one hand, while on the other hand, being in a place wherein I look for the one culprit, I look for the one leader, I identify the one leader, and want to exonerate others who might be followers, who might not exactly know, who might be misled, who might be somehow influenced. And we live in that world. It's a world that we inhabit here and now. And it's a world that not only we inhabit here and now, it's an impossible world to live in. So on this weekend of the 4th of July, I wanted to share a thought with you that actually comes from Christian theology. It comes from the writings of von Rad and Walter Brueggemann, but that is also associated with two of our commentators. That both the story of Abraham and the story of Korach entail in them an element, an ingredient that we sometimes don't recognize, don't identify. Sometimes we don't see it. And that ingredient is hope. Hope in both the stories of Abraham and God in Sodom doesn't come from God. Hope comes from Abram. It's Abram who says, oh, maybe you'll spare the city. It's Abram who expresses hope. It's Abram who says, maybe there's a light in the darkness. And there's hope in the story of Moses and Korach, not because of God. God is ready to destroy the entire community. But there is hope in the story of Moses and Korach, because Moses says to God, how about, God, you identify the real culprit here? How about we punish the real culprits and not everybody? And in both instances, there's an attempt to save the multitude. There's an attempt to continue. And maybe on this weekend of the 4th of July, we can seize on to this hope. Maybe we can recognize that we live on this spectrum. That's an impossible spectrum to live on. But that there's a glimmer of hope out there. And this glimmer of hope relates to nuance. And the nuance relates to our ability to see those who are truly innocent, those who are truly the upstanders, those who stand against oppression, even in the midst of oppression, on the one hand, and on the other, identify the true culprits within our societies, those who are truly responsible for the degradation of our institutions, for the degradation of our narrative, for the degradation of our values, for so much of the ill that we're experiencing around the world. Maybe in all of this, there is hope. Maybe there is hope that we are going to be able to somehow pull through and that the collective will survive. Maybe there is hope for the journey. Maybe there is still hope for the promised land. But it is up to us to feed, to nourish that hope. It is up to us to see, to identify that hope and to name it. And it is up to us to see, on the one hand, the upstanders, and on the other hand, to be able to identify the culprits. So for me, this in brief is the lesson of the Torah portion of Korach for this 4th of July weekend. And I wish you a wonderful 4th of July. And now, as we celebrate the presence of the words of Torah for us here, our Holy Scroll, I invite you to please join me in the blessing for the reading of the Torah. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach,
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. אמן. ויקח קורח בן יצהר בן קהת בן לוי ודתן ואבירם בני אליאב ואון בן פלט בני ראובן ויקומו לפני משה. And Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kehat, the son of Levi, right? As opposed to Moses, the son of Amram, the son of Kehat, the son of Levi. In other words, a nephew. And Datan and Aviram, the sons of Eliav, and Aven ben Pelet, the sons of Reuven, and they stood up in front of Moses. ואנשים מבני ישראל 52 נשיאי עדת קרואי מועד, and 250 others, leaders of the community, those elected, those lifted up from among the community, those who are called to service, people of name, Anshe Shem. Vayikahalu al Moshe ve'al Aharon, they gathered upon Moses and Aaron. Vayomru alehem, and said to them, Rav lachem, oh, you're having it great. Ki kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim, uvetocham Adonai, for the entire community, the entire nation, all are holy, and God is among them. Umadua titnas'u al kehal Adonai, why would you raise yourselves upon the rest of the community of God? Vayishma Moshe vayipol al panav. And Moses heard and fell onto his face. I skip. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe ve'el Aharon lemor. And God spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, Hibadalu mitoch ha'edah hazot, va'akale otam kerega. Separate yourselves from this entire nation, and I will annihilate them. I will destroy them in one moment. Vayipalu al peneihem, and they fell on their faces. Vayomru el Elohei aruchot lechol basar, and they said, God, the God of the spirits, for all flesh. Ha'ish echad yecheta, would one person sin, ve'al kol ha'eda tiktsof, and would you pour your wrath on the entire community? Let us now utter the blessing for the end of our reading of the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. And with the Torah scroll in our midst, our minds turn to those who are in need of healing, who are in need of support, and who are in need of blessing. Let me share with you the names of those whom you have shared with us, and then ask you to add, to contribute your own names to this list. We especially pray today for Ellen Greenbaum Brooks, Lois L., Amelia Hegarty, Mattie Jefferson, Byron Krantz, Kathy Seamus Meyerson, Richard Moore, Shani Novak, Betty Pickus, and Bob Shippey. If there are others whom you're thinking of at this time, I invite you to say their names so that we may recite and sing the Mishaberach for them together. Let us turn to the Mishaberach. The Mishaberach may be found on page 253.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu, mekor habracha. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
And now, to celebrate the presence of Torah in our midst, I invite you to please rise.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לבני ישראל, אני אדוני ביד
On page 256, Yehalelu et Shem Adonai ki nisgav shemo levado. Let us praise the name of Adonai, for God's name alone is exalted. Ki lekach tov natati lachem, for I have given you good instruction. Do not abandon my Torah. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. And as we remain standing, we turn to page 282 for the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח להדור הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצאנו בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים
be seated.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long after the star itself is born. And so is it with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו הינם. יש אנשים שזיו זכרם מאיר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו.
And this week we remember and we take into our hearts, especially those who were laid to rest within the last week, within the last 7 days, for whom we are in a period of Shiva, Judith Fields Blaine and Alice Shaw Lefkowitz. We take into our hearts, we recall with love those who were laid to rest within the last 30 days, for whom we are within the Shloshim period: Joseph Dempsey, Nancy Friedman, Shirley Goldberg, Leonard Goldstein, Janet Kirsch, Betty Lev, Ronna Rosenthal, Philip Casrell, Paula Lassman, James Herman, and Mathilde P. Kretsch, and Ethan David Liming. And we recall with love those whose yahrzeits occur at this time: Ryan Applegate, Barbara C. Arsham, Florence S. Bialowski, Hyman Bilchik, Maxine Carol Bilchik, Sarah Black, Sylvia Bergen, Lawrence Charnas, Joan Friedheim Krauss Collins, Mark H. Cohn, Marvin Dessen, Elaine Discount, Saul S. Drucker, Milton E. Eckstein, Annie Felber, Theodore R. Felber, Augusta S. Fischel, Ida Frankel, Blanche H. Friedman, Frank E. Friedman, Josephine Asherman Gerson, Samuel Gerson, Joseph E. Glazer, Rudolph Glazer, Arnold Glick, Beatrice Crystal Goodman, Joseph R. Goodman, Matilda K. Goulder, Arthur M. Graver, Estelle Grossman, Frank Hartman, Lillian Heiser, Robert L. Herman, Margarita R. Hertz, Gertrude O. Hollander, Meredith Ellen Jacobs, Frank E. Joseph Sr., Betty Nidus Katz, Larry Haver Klein, Marie F. Koenig, Manny Landers, Robert L. Lappin, Sir Jan Luando, Fanny Liebenthal, Molly Loshbin, Rose Mandelkorn, Joseph E. Mayer, Rhoda Goldberg Meldon, Fanny Meshorer, William Meshorer, Robert J. Miller, Bill Morris, Harry Machance, Hilda Fisher-Nadler, Eli N. Newberry, Louis Perlman, Dr. Harvey Post, Theodore Ted Rosen, Lillian K. Rothschild, Louis S. Sanders, Joseph M. Sands, Corinne S. Schwartz, Samuel H. Sonor, Bernice S. Seamus, Myrtle Silverman, Helene Korak-Stotter, Marshall Lowenstein Sugarman, Louis E. Weitz, Leonard R. Wolin, Lester S. Zavelson, and Dr. Joel V. Zapnik. If at this time you are mourning a loved one whose name has not just been read off this list, or if I mispronounced any of the names on this list, I invite you to utter their names now. If at this time you are mourning the passing of a loved one within the last 7 days and are within a Shiva period, I invite you now to please rise. If you are mourning the passing of a loved one within the last 30 days and are within the Shloshim period, I invite you now to please rise. If you're marking a yard site at this time, I invite you now to please rise. And now, as a caring congregation, let us all rise as we prepare to recite the Kaddish. The Kaddish may be found on page 294. Please join me. Yitgadal v'yitkadash mei Rabba, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן, יהי שמי רבא מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשא בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבא מן שמיה וחיים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. May the source of peace and comfort send peace and comfort to us and to all who mourn. And let us together say, Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. It has become our custom to turn from moments of remembrance and mourning to moments of celebration. And I don't know that you have shared with us many moments of celebration, but it is the 4th of July weekend. So again, I would like to share with you a message of hope and wish you a celebratory, peaceful 4th of July weekend, and for us to all return refreshed into July, the rest of August, and our lives here in the congregation and in our greater community and beyond. Our closing song, I believe, is Ein Kelohenu. Is that right? Ein Kelohenu.
Thank you.
And now to bless our bounty. And Eva, are you guys gonna join us? And Blaze, are you gonna join us? Are you guys gonna help us? For the Kiddush and the Motzi? Yeah? You ready?
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הכוכבים ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו בשבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המוציא לחם מן הארץ אמן.
Adonai עוז לעמו ייתן, Adonai יברך את עמו ושלום. May we merit to always be judged for credit. May we always retain hope. May we celebrate a happy 4th of July and many, many more to come together. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.